Today I want to talk to you about ship's ballast in the form of some of the larger rocks or stones we've found here at the James Fort site. And this is a perfect place to illustrate these finds because I'm standing just inside the western palisade to James Fort at the site of two large buildings that were timber frame and set upon cobblestone foundations. And it's in these cobblestone foundations that we come across some unique stones that are not native to the Virginia coastal plain. So where do they come from? How do they get here? They arrived here in the form of ship's ballast with the early English ships. And what ship's ballast is simply anything you're putting into the hull of a ship to help balance it below deck for these transatlantic voyages. So the English would use their foodstuffs, their casks, their goods that they would load into the hull would help with ship's ballast. But they would also incorporate stones because they're very dense, heavy. They can move them around to where they need to be in the hull to help balance the load for that voyage. So what we know is many of the early English voyages to Virginia came through by way of the Caribbean, or more particularly the Lesser Antilles. By the time they would reach the Lesser Antilles, they would have been at sea for many weeks. They would have exhausted some of their supplies, so therefore less weight in the hulls of the ship and a need to take on more ship's ballast. And they did so in the Lesser Antilles by taking on andesite volcanic cobbles, which are prevalent with those islands down there. And we have geologists from the College of William and Mary studying some of our andesite cobbles and looking at some of the minerals, such as the feldspar crystals here, and they're trying to source exactly which islands these stones came from. So that's very exciting. We know some of the islands the colonists stopped in, but perhaps the geologists will tell us of more, and it can also help us to date when these andesite cobbles might have come to Jamestown. We also came across a fair amount of limestone in the foundations to these row houses. And what's exciting about this limestone is that we know where it's coming from. It's coming from Bermuda. And no colonists had been through Bermuda to Jamestown until May of 1610, and they were the survivors of the Sea Venture shipwreck of July 1609. It took them 10 months to build two new ships out of the wreckage. They named those ships the Deliverance and the Patience, and they would have had a need for ballast, so they took on the limestone, which was all over Bermuda, to help balance those two new ships. Now, it's really exciting because finding the limestone helps us to date the building. Since the limestone is spread around throughout the foundations, we know these buildings could not possibly be built until after May 1610, when those two ships get here to Jamestown. And we also know from the records that these buildings are likely the two fair rows of houses referred to by colonist Ralph Hammer that were constructed, if you're looking at the records, probably in 1610, 1611. So the timing is spot on with the Bermuda limestone kind of marrying up with those primary documents. So we love finding the Bermuda limestone. It helps to give us a date after which something was built or filled in. We've come across a number of flint cobbles over the years and features throughout James Fort, as well as sometimes incorporated in the architecture. For example, we had a governor's house addition to the Far Row House here in 1617 by Governor Samuel Argall, and they incorporated hundreds of English flint cobbles into the foundation and the foundation of a chimney base. And this would have been the English flint, of course, is from England, but it's from southern England. It has a chalky cortex, outer bit here, and these are found throughout the beaches of Dorset, for example. So they would have loaded the English flint on with the initial load of ballast in England. In addition to the English flint, we've been finding some sandstone from England. And what's really exciting about the sandstone is we've seen in one stone in particular in these foundations here that was actually part of a Roman road. The stone exhibits the pick marks from the Romans, and so the English, over 1,000 years after that artifact was made, or that stone was modified, they take it here to Jamestown as ship's ballast. So as you can see, you can learn a lot from some of these stones out here, especially the ones that are not native to Virginia, that arrived here in the form of ballast.